In today's video, I'm going to be breaking down Carl Tomeo. Carl Tomeo is a very good three-point shooter and mid-range shooter from the Philippines, and today we're going to be checking out how he shoots the ball so we can incorporate some of the things that he does into our own shot. It's always great to see better basketball players and see how they shoot so that we can basically shoot just like them or even better. So let's get down, let's check out Carl Tomeo. Okay, so in this first shot, what we're going to be looking at is a three-point shot by Carl Tomeo, and it does look like he is pretty well square towards the basket. Knees, hips, and feet are pretty well all square, even his shoulders. When he rises up from his catch, down into his dip, and then into his gather, which his dip is not that big. It's just down to his waist, and then he goes up into his gather, and then into his set point. And we can also see that this is pretty well a one motion shot as well. From there, when he goes up from his gather up into his set point, we don't see all that much movement into his elbow, which is very good. The reason why you would not want to see all that much movement in that elbow is because the more movement in your shot, the more chances of that movement changing just slightly so that now you can become inconsistent. However, when he goes up into his set point, we do see that it is roughly right in front of his eyes, if not right at his forehead height. We also do see some shadow onto his face, which does tell us that the ball is most likely in front of his eye as well. And we can see that his shoulder from this clip anyways is pretty well in line with the ball. And that makes that shooting triangle that I'm always talking about. The shooting triangle being the ball pretty well close to either over top of your shoulder, over top of your upper arm, or over top of your elbow. If you've got that 90-degree angle on your elbow, it's going to be a fast release. 45 roughly is going to be a slower release. And we can see by a shadow that there is some space between his palm and the ball, which will allow him to have more control over that ball. We also see that at this point in time, he brings his knees together, which a lot of players do have happen. And the reason for that is the outside leg. The upper outside quad is a bit weaker in either when they were growing up or currently, and they haven't really worked on that. And you can work on that by just basically putting a ball between your knees and sitting in a wall sit for a while. And from there, we can also see that when he was down into it, going up into his set point, his shoulders are over his knees, but not necessarily over his toes. There is a little bit of a gap there. So what we can tell by there is that this shot is actually pushing more forward, and we can even see that with the stiff back going straight, not going straight up, but slightly forward, and with those knees together really does tell me that he's going to be really trying to push that ball forward, yet he doesn't jump all that much forward, maybe about a half a foot or so. But when he goes up to release, we can see that the thumb comes off the ball, which is good. He's not pushing with his thumb. And then that release is a soft release that bounces up, very similar to a Steph Curry. And he has actually some pretty good rotation on that ball, I would say. That looks to be about 2.5 rotations. So basically, why I mentioned that is a hard release, like in a Michael Jordan, will give you more backspin on that ball, but a soft release will give you more arc. Now, we can see with players like Steph Curry and a few others who have a very good shot that when it comes to their release, if the hand bounces back up, it's an even softer release, which will allow that ball to have a lot of arc and a lot of consistency. And we can see from behind when he goes up into his set point, the set point is just to the right side of his forehead, which will mean that that ball is lined up with roughly his shoulder, which will make that shooting triangle. And his jump forward is about the size of his shoe, so probably about a foot. And then he, of course, makes a ton of threes. I also want to really focus on some of his footwork really quickly. He can land on his right, kick the left down, which is extremely hard to do if you're right-handed, and he's still able to be very consistent from the mid-range. This is a very hard thing to do, but so many players will expect you to hop. If you're right-handed and you're driving left, they'll expect you to take a little bit of a hop, which is why we've seen this player even take a quick shuffle over towards that right side. He was not expecting this shot to go right, left, and up, which was able to allow Carl Tomeo an open shot. We can also see on his turnaround fadeaway jump shots that he has a very good jumper as well. So when he turns around, so many players will get caught up and shoot the ball way right if they're right-handed, then they're turning towards the right side because their right foot is not squared up towards the basket, and they usually just chuck up a shot. But I really want to show you something. If you're doing a turnaround jumper, in this situation, you need to kick your right foot out, number one. Number two, before you even start going up for your shot, before you start releasing your shot, you need to turn into a two-set shooter. And what I mean by that is you need to pause it for a second at your forehead until you bring your shoulder and elbow in line with the basketball net. And that's what we see here. That creates your line, having the ball, like if it's a regular shot, exactly where you want it, generally making that shooting triangle, you will be a very consistent shooter. Now, in this situation, he actually had a hard release, as we see here. That is what we call a hard release, but the hand bounced back, which allows it to be slightly soft so that he does not change from his regular shooting form. You never really want to change all that much, and he's able to get that arc and a very well-made shot. This is why Karl Tamayo is a very good three-point shooter and a very good shooter in basketball. I hope that this video has helped you become a better basketball player. If it has, hit that like button and subscribe. Make sure to go check out all of the equipment that I use down in the description below, and I'll see you guys again next time.